Yeah, so my name is Mike Edwards, and I'm a writer, a performer, performance poet from Teesside, and I'm involved in kind of spoken word shows and kind of character comedy.
Great. So, when did all this start? Did you come from a creative background? Were you involved with the arts?
Um, so obviously, I've always been interested in writing and things, I guess, since I was a kid and stuff. But it started, I guess, in earnest really when at uni, really, when I was at Teesside Uni. So looking at 10, 15 years ago, even now. Um, and there was a lot of kind of creative writing things going on. I was doing sort of English and media studies, and there was kind of magazine launches, and Bob Began and Andy Willoughby were doing a lot of things around a thing called a magazine called Keenaz at the time, and they had sort of creative writing classes, and there was just events all over the place there and things. So I kind of got involved in that and did some kind of poems for the magazine and stuff. And they'd always have a launch night and things. So I kind of from the launch night, I got involved in kind of reading other poems, and from there I kind of got involved in more doing more stuff on the stage really.
Brilliant. So, yeah, that's kind of covered one of my other questions about how formally you were educated. You obviously your focus at university, was it more kind of academic than the creative writing?
Yeah, so I was doing English and media studies, and so a lot of the I guess I got a lot of the creative writing kind of things were attached to the English, um, but they weren't part of the course, if that makes sense. There's something I kind of sought out and got involved in as a kind of extension to that, really. So it's a bit of both, I suppose.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, um, I kind of want to get kind of leap straight to your show because I know you recently had a show down the Arc.
I did, yeah.
Not brilliant circumstances. How,
No.
how I mean, I couldn't make that. How did it feel? What was it like being able to perform but in
Um,
reduced capacity?
it was strange. Obviously, everything's strange. And I kind of to and fro in it. We're kind of so we weren't quite sure at one point whether it would happen. Obviously, Arc was obviously closed for a long time. The show I think I'd just done the show in Newcastle in March, and literally I think the week before lockdown fully hit. So I managed to do that show at Alphabetti in March. I'd done the show at Arc previously before all this, but there were some dates scheduled at Arc which got cancelled when Arc shut and things. So we rearranged it. And again, yeah, it was really weird because one, obviously the show wasn't quite as fresh in my head as it might have been at the time, so I had to kind of obviously get it back in and stuff. And then you weren't quite sure whether people would go and what it would be like, and also in my head, part of me was like, oh, you couldn't fully commit to rehearsing in some ways because you had this sort of inkling that it would get cancelled, but then you thought, oh, what if it doesn't? I better make sure I do rehearse fully in case it does, and obviously it did go ahead. But actually, it worked. I was quite glad that we did it actually, and it worked out quite well. And again, we just seemed to time it where we did it, and then I closed again in a much more recent lockdown. So and and then it's sort of like, do we address it? Well, you've kind of got to address it. Obviously, the show itself is quite kind of conversational and chatty, so you can chat to the audience and things. So it's not like we were never going to acknowledge it. And some of the references from the show previously, there was kind of references to Brexit and things, which already felt quite dated. They've noticed, so they took those out a little bit. But yeah, we just addressed it in the first, and because it's quite a comic show, we addressed it quite comically, really. And in the first sort of few minutes, I was said to come on, everyone, bunch up or something, and because we had to sort of space out, so come on, everyone, bunch up, come on, and then people had masks on and stuff, so we just kind of make a little thing of that. But actually, I was really glad we did it, and actually worked out really well. And it's just a nice thing and actually the audiences were pretty decent actually. And the venue at Arc, they initially we'd been in the studio, which is a more traditional theatre space. But we went in the Point, which is a bigger space, but it's a more kind of cabaret comedy type space. But actually, that suited the kind of personally suited the show too, because the show is quite stand-up and comic and stuff. So it was all okay. It was a guy had their own little table, own little bubble, and we just kind of did it. And yeah, and it worked out really well actually. I was glad to have done it.
Great. Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that it was able to go ahead, even if it somewhat reduced capacity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So how do you approach when you're writing a show like that? How do you approach it? Is it the idea that comes first? How does it formulate in your mind?
Again, it's sometimes a bit of both. It's a bit of. I mean, some of the shows, Damn Seagulls, the most recent show, is probably not is the most non. It was a different type of show for me to have done in a way, because it was the one, and I was what I've been trying to do for a little while. It was that it was more in inverted commas me as me, so it was more stand up. I was kind of talking to the audience and stuff. Where the shows in the past have been much more character based, where I was in character throughout really. So those earlier shows, I suppose, have a much more structured story, I guess. So it comes with the idea, it comes with the character, and then we develop the kind of story from that. But with the Damn Seagulls show, I kind of approached it a bit more like a kind of almost like a little gig where you could go over here to this mic and do some poems. You can just put a hat on and just be a character. You can chat to the audience, do some storytelling. So, which could sound a bit disjointed. It did have this overarching kind of theme around hats and things, and there was one kind of grouping story. But that came, I suppose, from different little pieces kind of coming together from characters I might have done elsewhere in a different capacity, and extending that a bit. Wanting to make this kind of looser show, which gives us more scope to do different little things. And then it just comes through, I guess, from working with Ark and working with whoever you want the director, if you are wanting a director, or just putting it together really over time.
Yeah, brilliant. So, so why do you do it? What is it about the arts? Why are you involved with the arts? What do you think the arts gives people individually, and what part do you think it plays in society as a whole?
Yeah.
A little question there.
I don't. That was the sound we have. No, I don't. It's weird, isn't it? It is weird, and I know I'm by no means a professional in this in a way. I mean, I've also have a day job as well, but also it's also still a huge part of my life, and I do these things. But I do wonder, because before going on stage, I do feel so nervous and so sick, and I have that exact question. Even I kind of have a joke, and I'm not going to do it, but like, literally, why? Like, what? Literally, it's bizarre, isn't it? Like, you're going on there. I'm generally probably quite a shy person, really, and quite an introverted person, and yeah, I'll go on stage and just be these larger than life characters and do all this stuff, and absolutely love it when I'm doing it in that flow, and it is a different person really. But why is it just a weird question? I don't know. Of course, I enjoy it because I just, like I said, I like telling stories. I'm always, I like being creative and having fun, and so for personally, it's just a huge part of my life that I'll always do regardless, and love doing it. And then on a kind of freelance level, I've also done other benefits of it. That we kind of preach and converted here. We kind of know the benefits about as intangible whatever they might be. We know the mental health benefits. We've done workshops wherever we've delivered things and seen how people can engage with it and all that sort of stuff. So it's massively important to people. I got into it through going to those sort of workshops, and it obviously stirred something in me to want to carry on doing it. So it's massively important, and we're seeing that more and more, aren't we? We kind of know, but let's just say lockdown, for instance, how naturally creative people started to be. How much naturally people wanted to connect, and we all did this flurry of creativity that came, particularly in the first lockdown. And it's we're gonna need that more and more. We will always need that. Just there's community aspects to it. There's mental health aspects to it. There's just purely the enjoyment of going to see something, and all the sorts of things. So yeah, it's huge. But and it's hard to kind of pinpoint why. Why is humans are naturally creative?
Yeah, well, I think since the dawn of human history, we've
exactly. Yeah,
we first could mark one stone with another.
Yeah, it's exactly. So it's innate to human beings, and it sounds a bit like, if you're not involved in it, that can sound, people think that sounds a bit airy fairy when you say everyone's creative. People are kind of, I'm not creative at all, but we are. You naturally are. Yeah, just need to sell that, I guess, and promote that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we need to talk a little bit more about lockdown and how it's affecting your future plans. Are you still kind of writing and preparing to do new work?
Yeah. So I'm writing at the moment. What I'm writing at the moment, because I've been trying to write a novel as well for literally years. So what I'm writing at the moment isn't something to be performed on stage, just the shows and things. So I'm not doing any shows as such, but I'm still working on a book. So I've been doing that throughout, regards to lockdown. In the short term, like kind of this year that's gone, it affected it in that I was hoping to go to Edinburgh for the first, well, not to go for the first time, but to perform really for the first time at the Fringe this year. So I'd applied for the free Fringe, and then obviously the Fringe didn't happen. So I'm hoping I'll probably roll over the application for next year, hopefully. Yeah, in fact, we did have a few things booked in, a few dates that I could booked in different venues, which again hopefully will carry on next year. So Damn Seagulls will hopefully just essentially the things we had for this year will be able to be done okay in 2021. So effectively that way, again, that's why I was quite lucky to have done even the ARC shows, I think. And I did do a few things with other people during lockdown. So the guy, you may well be interviewing a guy called Scott Turnbull, who's a performer and a brilliant artist, and he's hilarious. But he did a Zoom show through ARC and stuff, so I submitted some things to there and did some. So we did do some of this this online performance and stuff too. And it might be as well that at Damn Seagulls, because Zoom probably is here to stay generally, or people are going to use more of these sort of things, we do some recordings of the show, or I do some characters over Zoom, and so they're definitely using more of that technology as well. So that's kind of a bonus. That'd be good, I think, because a lot of my character stuff can just be literally this as well as me chatting away in character on Zoom. Quite simple to do, really. But then generally, yeah, it's in some ways it's been quite good lockdown as regards having a bit more headspace in some ways to write. On the other hand, it's been awful as regards just the kind of being stuck and all the rest of it and all the other things that go on. So it's been a mixed bag, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really hope we're out of this soon and
yeah,
come and see your show. It's been lovely talking to you.
No, you too.
And hope to meet you out in the real world.
Yeah.
When as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Good luck with this. So it'll be interesting to see when it's all put together. Yeah, it's been nice to see when you've got everyone and stuff to just keep us posted and things.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers, Mike.
Cheers. Take care, Lisa. Bye for now. Cheers.